A year ago, I was just trying to not relapse. A couple of days ago, I walked out of a meeting with the coordinator of the jail treatment program in my area, and they want to implement my journals into their curriculum. And they asked me to come speak at the relapse prevention weekend. I don't really have the words to stress just how cool this is. The thought of something that I've done can have a positive impact on the people who need it most, it's hard to explain how good that feels. It's so exciting when you start to see results of that. Like, I think that this is what my purpose is. I believe that this is what my purpose is. But now I'm starting to see the results of that. It's just hard to put into words, and I'm just incredibly grateful to be where I'm at today. And I'm telling you right now that this did not happen because I'm special. It happened because I did not quit. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gandy Show. If you're new here, this is a place for people in recovery, people who are struggling, or people who feel stuck in life. And we're here to figure this out together. And today, I'm not coming on here as someone who has it all figured out, but I am coming on here as somebody who almost gave up a lot of times. So a couple of days ago, I had this meeting, and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I had no idea how it was gonna go, and I wanted it to go well. I spent days preparing for it, doing research on, the benefits of journaling and typing up a really well put together PDF so that I can hand it to the person that I was talking to, basically so, I look like I knew what I was doing in there. You ever have that voice in your head that's like, who are you to be doing this? Like, you don't belong at this meeting. Why would they take me seriously? I had all of that, but it went away. And by the end of the meeting, she's talking about ordering 100 journals just to start. That is huge. That is huge. I can tell you for sure that when I made these, I had no idea how far I could take it. I wasn't even thinking this far ahead. The furthest I thought into this was this. So, I remember when I first got out of residential treatment and I went into sober living, for the first 3 days, I did absolutely nothing to protect my sobriety. Honestly, I just spent 72 hours scrolling on TikTok. And, at the third day, by the third day, I was like, well, I haven't done anything to protect my recovery. So I started thinking, like, what are some habits that I developed while I was in treatment? I started writing first thing in the morning during our spirituality group while I was in treatment, and it really helped me. I filled 20 notebooks up, and I still have them all. And I thought, I started doing research on, how we damage the neural pathways in our brain during active addiction. Those same neural pathways can be repaired. It takes 21 days to create a new habit. So I started doing a few things, and journaling was one of them. Now, that was just a seed that was planted. Fast forward, I moved on from sober living, and I'm in my own place. And, I think Jordan Peterson actually said this, if you have a problem, that's your problem. It's an opportunity to do something about it. Our journals was born from that concept. I seen a problem that I was having personally, and I wanted to take it a step further. I wanted to do something about it. And I also noticed that, you know, this is a recovery tool, these journals. And they don't supply you with these in treatment. So that's where I'm at now. That's why I'm going to these meetings, because my goal is to get these journals in the hands of as many people who need them. It's also something tangible that you can take out of treatment with you. They give you packets and, you're in groups, but like, I don't have any of those packets anymore. I do have a couple of these that I still write in, that I fill them up and I keep them, and I write dates, and I can go back and I can look if I'm having a hard time. I can go back and look at all the progress I've made. So, anyways, back to the meeting. By the end of the meeting, she was talking about ordering 100 journals just to start. And she asked me if I would come speak at the relapse prevention weekend. And I said, absolutely. At the end of the meeting, I walked out and I sat in my car for a second and I thought, wow, this is actually happening. But here's the truth. This did not start today. Okay. I did graduate a 90-day residential treatment program. I did graduate another 90-day residential treatment program. I did go to 5.5 months of cognitive based treatment. I did do 18 to 24 months of a drug court program. I did do 2 years of one on one counseling. It started on the days where seemingly nothing was happening, but it wasn't nothing. I was working, in here. I was doing the inside work. And that's the work that means the most. The work that nobody sees is the work that actually means more than anything. The days that I did not feel like journaling, or the days that I didn't feel like staying sober, there were days that it felt pointless. And, like I said, the days that nobody was actually watching, that's where this was actually built. And that's when I started realizing that everything that I went through, it wasn't just pain, it was preparation. You know, God does not waste your pain. You don't have to waste your pain either. If you've struggled with addiction and you're still here, you have a cheat code to success, and nobody talks about this. There are millions of people out there still suffering, stuck in the same place that you used to be, the same place that I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And that gives us a unique ability to reach people that others can't. We do not talk about this enough. And I think it's so important, because if you can find a purpose, if you can turn your pain into your purpose, you absolutely have a cheat code to success. The hard part's already done. Think about it. I already did the hard part. I already beat the addiction. I already lived in the tent. Nobody else has my story. My story is unique to me, but there are millions of people that have a similar story. There are millions of people that have a similar story to you. Whoever's listening to this, that's why it's so important to tell our stories. That's why every episode I have a call to action. If you have a story, I want to hear from you, because we need to be sharing these stories. The people who have faced addiction and survived, we are some of the most hardest working humans on the earth. We are some of the most relentless people on the earth. You do not survive that lifestyle without an insane amount of tenacity. The problem isn't that we don't have what it takes. It's we've been pouring all that energy into something that's destroying us. But if you can take even a quarter of that same energy, that same obsession, that same drive, and put it into anything positive, there's nothing that can stop you except for you. I'm going to say that again. If you can put a quarter of that same tenacity as you put into maintaining your addiction, there is nothing that can stop you from being successful except for you. That is a cheat code to success. And I'm going to start talking about that more because it's important. Every single one of us have the ability to build something great, something that helps people and that is going to outlive us. Think about, we're doing the opposite of that when we're pouring all that energy and time into addiction. It's destroying us. Take just any bit of that same energy and put it into something positive. You will build something that will outlast you. That sounds like a way better option than killing ourselves. Some of you are about to quit and you do not even realize how close you are. You're in that place where 99%. I'm in that place where 99% of people quit. Think about if I would have quit, because I've been to a couple of these meetings and I haven't heard anything back from anybody, and it's really discouraging. It is. It's disheartening. Think about if I would have quit 2 weeks ago after the last meeting I went to and didn't hear anything. I wouldn't have made this breakthrough. Just think about that. Some of you are ready to quit and you're closer than you actually know. You think nothing's working. You think you're stuck. You think that that's just what it is. And I thought the same thing. But what if you are one decision away, one meeting away from changing everything? There were moments where I did not believe in myself, but I did trust that God had a plan. I wasn't sure what that was. Even going back to, 4 weeks ago when my work schedule changed, I was so focused on what an inconvenience it was that I couldn't even see past that. And it actually, so somebody actually commented on one of my videos where I was complaining about it, and they're like, you never know, God might have you in that situation for a reason. Maybe you're going to meet somebody during that time period that needs some positivity in their life. And I don't know if that happened. Maybe it did. I want to park on that for a second though, because I feel like that's a human trait. I feel like we've become used to being so focused on the problem that we're not able to see the potential, right? I was so focused on the inconvenience that I wasn't able to see that, maybe something good can come out of this. And that perspective change, it can change everything in your life. Like I am so convinced that your perspective shapes your reality. It talks about it in the Bible. It says, I've unlocked the keys to be content in every situation. That is your perspective. Changing my perspective also helped me stop being a victim. That victim mentality is draining. Who wants to walk around being a victim all the time? Not me. I'm not a victim. Yeah, I grew up in poverty. Yeah, both my parents are addicts. I fell victim to substance abuse disorder, but I'm not a victim. No one's coming to save you. That's what you need to realize. As soon as I realized that no one was coming to save me, I don't have a safety net, I don't have a plan B, man, I shifted into a different gear. I can tell you that. I am not a victim, and I'm able to look at my part in every situation. I don't care if I'm in the wrong. Even if I'm in the wrong, I can find whatever my part was in that situation and I can use that moving forward. And I have a peace that surpasses human understanding. Back to, the moments where I didn't believe in myself, but I trusted that God had a plan even when I couldn't see it. And that's exactly when I started to build something. If you're trying to stay consistent, I created these journals because this is what helped me on my worst day. It's not just writing, it is structure when your mind is in chaos. We also have guided meditations that will be linked in the description of this video. These help with anxiety, cravings, and just slowing down your mind. And every Sunday, we meet on Zoom. We have a recovery group that is accessible via Zoom. Real people, real conversations, no judgment. If you feel alone, you do not have to feel alone anymore because you don't have to do this by yourself. I'm building a community where everyone can come and connect with each other. That is what the goal is here. I'm trying to build a place, not where I'm just yapping in front of my camera. I'm trying to build a gathering place where it doesn't matter where you're at, you have a way to connect. And if you have a story, please send it in. I want to start a new segment on this show where I read people's stories of redemption, recovery, struggle. It doesn't matter what part of your journey that you're in. I don't care if you're in the struggle part, the redemption part. It doesn't matter. I want to tell your story because it helps us connect with each other. So if you have something you're willing to let me share on this show, please send it to thegandyshow@gmail.com. That will also be linked in the description. Your testimony can be the thing that saves somebody else's life. The episode of my show that changes someone's life might be the story that you send me. Think about that. Today's episode isn't about me coming up here telling you that I made it. I'm telling you all this stuff because I'm still in it. And if I can go from barely holding it together to moments like this, so can you. I love you, and I'm out.